Hi, I'm Virginia from Right Clinic, and here with me today is Remy. Remy is a former medical doctor trained and raised in the UK. He's worked in the UK and rural South Africa over a decade and has over a decade of medical experience. And he was a former clinical researcher in infectious diseases, and he's based in Cape Town, South Africa, and he splits his time between South Africa and London equally, and he's been a freelance medical writer for the past 2.5 years. So thank you so much, Remy, for being here today.
Oh, Virginia, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's been cool kind of connecting and like watching each other on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's really nice to connect, meet in person, and yeah, get a chance to share my story with you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your LinkedIn posts, and I saw you posting quite a lot, and I was like, oh, I have to have this person on the podcast because you seem so interesting.
Thank
I
you.
think you've got a lot to share as well.
Yeah, I've
So
lived a
how did
bit.
you get in? Yeah. So how did you get into freelance medical writing 2.5 years ago?
Um, well, I think it's just a culmination of what my interests were. So, as you said, I used to be a doctor, so I worked in clinical medicine, and yeah, did that for like just over 10 years. And yeah, when I was a doctor, like my favorite parts of the job were education. So that was either like teaching patients or teaching junior doctors or like other members of staff. And my favorite thing was just being able to sit down with somebody and take time and explain to them what was going on. You know, when you go to hospital, especially if you're a patient, there's a lot of fear in what's unknown. And so like it was a pleasure for me actually. Like that was the bit where I'd get this really warm, fuzzy feeling inside if I had the moment to take something scary or complicated and sit down with somebody and make it clear and easy to understand and hopefully a little less scary. And so, for example, when I was working on a liver unit, we would have loads of patients that come in with gallstones. So, like, one of my favorite things was to sit down with a patient. They're jaundiced, they don't know why their skin and their eyes have turned yellow and why their tummy's hurting so much. And you sit down and I would draw them a picture of their liver and their gallbladder and explain to them what's going on and what we're going to do to go and get these gallstones and unblock it and how that's going to make their skin less yellow. Um, and yeah, that was just like a really fun part of my job. And that's what I loved being able to do. And so when it kind of became clear to me that I needed to look outside of clinical medicine for a job, I was looking for something where I could combine my medical knowledge and my love of like talking to people and my passion for teaching and to like mix that with some creativity. And medical writing just seemed like a really nice way of doing that. It's like this, you sit at this perfect interface between science and the public. And so I just wanted to position myself in a place where I could be a conduit for medical knowledge and like, break it down in a fun way or a creative way. So yeah, I set up a profile on a few different freelancing websites like Fiverr and Upwork and Contra. And yeah, the rest is history. Um, so yeah, and in terms of like what I do day to day, yeah, I write for businesses, brands, blogs, startups, basically anybody that has something that has a medical or healthcare knowledge, healthcare kind of message they want conveyed. I'm there. I'll do it. And I'm a bit of a nerd, so I love learning about stuff. And like this is sometimes I say to people, I kind of do homework for a living because like I'll get an assignment and I'll be like, hey, it might be something like I know a little bit about from my time in medical school. Um, and I'll be like, okay, I really want you to research about, um, you know, sleep hygiene, which I know a little bit about, but it's like, okay, I have now this whole assignment to do about sleep hygiene, and I'll just like read a whole bunch of papers and geek out, and then come up with something. So yeah, that's what I do. That's how I got into it.
I love that. I also share a love of learning as well. And I think it's so fun when you are asked to read up on something and
Mm,
then you go and find out all these things that you never knew about. And I just find it really fascinating because you can really go down some interesting rabbit holes and it keeps you engaged in your work as well. So when you
yeah.
do start writing, you've got something that you've kind of built up from everything that you've read.
Mm,
And so that makes it really interesting and engaging. And so what made you decide to, how did you transition from full-time medical doctor to full-time freelancer? Did you just have a set date where, you're just going to stop being a doctor and start being a writer all the time? Or did you slowly, build up your portfolio until you decided that you had enough that you could go and be a freelance medical writer full-time?
Yeah, so I did it the way that I would advise nobody to ever do it, which was basically I had a contract. I was working for Imperial College London and the University of Cape Town, and I was working in infectious diseases, and I had a contract that ran until a certain date. And basically, I thought to myself, I've always wondered if there's something outside of clinical medicine for me, and yeah, I'm just gonna let this lapse, like this. I'm just gonna let the contract just completely like finish, and then I'm just gonna see what happens. And then I basically, yeah, I was just writing and journaling about my time for me personally, about kind of experiences I had in medicine, particularly in rural South Africa, and because there's so many stories in that kind of space. I know you had a chat with Abena from Medic Footprints, and she was talking about her like time in trauma surgery in South Africa. So like there's
Yeah.
and all the stuff she'd seen. I mean, there's so many stories. So I was just kind of writing for my own interest and personal kind of recordings, and yeah, then I just kind of started like doing more of it for as clients started coming in, I would just kind of find like a little bit a little extra work here and there, and just it was very slow going at first. And I had enough savings, and thankfully because of COVID, because basically I'd spent 2 years kind of at work or in my house. And
Mhm.
yeah, like I was lucky, I think, enough that I managed to like pick up enough clients over like the first kind of 9 months. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it was pretty like seat of the pants kind of stuff. Like sometimes like there was moments where I was really doubting what I'd done and whether I should just like head back to medicine for that security and for that regular paycheck. But yeah, I just kind of freewheeled it. Not advisable.
I think that's a very brave move, but also
Yeah,
you did have, you said, a bit of a cushion in terms of savings, so you could take that risk and
yeah,
then, make it work. You still gave yourself some time, and you won over your doubts. And
mm,
so I think it's important to be your own cheerleader as well during those times, because otherwise you will just give up and you won't know what could have been. And I think some people
exactly.
regret not giving it their full on attention.
Yeah,
So
I
what do
kind
you
of
know
had to
now
put
that
myself
you're
under pressure. I think in that like scenario. So I
yeah.
know that with certainly with anybody who works in healthcare, um, sometimes you have to make those calls under pressure. And I knew that if I was kind of comfortable working in medicine, that I probably would never actually get to a point where I just like took, the conditions would never be
Mm.
perfect or right enough for me just to take the plunge. And actually, I knew that if I had a bit of pressure and knew that there was like finite savings that were like slowly being eaten away, that I would, okay, I'm going to do it. But yeah, if I were to advise anybody that were like going into it, um, yeah, I would make sure you've got, enough saved. Obviously depends on your kind of lifestyle and where you are and what your expenses are. But yeah, have like at least 6 months of savings if you're going to do it. And if what I would suggest is actually like starting to build your writing portfolio and your client base up before quitting any job. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to do that to prepare for the change and then make it happen,
Mm,
rather than take the plunge. But it's
yeah.
okay if you decide to do it that way. I guess, when you want to change a habit, you either go for it or you slowly transition, and then it depends. People's risk tolerance is different. so
Yeah.
um so so now that you've given those top tips, what's next on the horizon for you? What are your
What's
goals or aspirations?
Yeah, so I mean, like I've had a really exciting kind of last year, and I've seen that like my kind of scale of work and the clients coming in has been like increasing quite nicely. And so I'm actually going to be expanding my operation this year, and I've started to arrive at a point where I've got more work than I have kind of hands. So yeah, I'm actually going to be taking on more writers to help me. I've already got one associate writer that I've been working with for like the last year or so. And yeah, I'm going to be looking for doctors, kind of, or not doctors, but healthcare writers who are, yeah, from specialized fields to expand. So I'm particularly looking for people in like fields like immunology, um, cardiology, respiratory medicine, just to kind of help me with projects that are coming in. Yeah. And the other thing is, I've actually just been working on a really fun creative project. So I'd love to be doing more work like that. I actually got a really amazing job um, just through a chance meeting with somebody that I was giving a lift to. We were actually driving on the way back from a weekend away, and yeah, I just happened to be giving this person a lift, and it was 3 hours, and we just kind of got talking about what we were doing. And yeah, it turns out she worked for a kind of small film production studio. And then 2 months later, texted me and said, "Look, we're actually looking for a medical writer for a project we're doing." And it was for a branch of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so I actually ended
Oh
up
wow.
writing some scripts for some videos that are going to be shown at one of their meetings at the end of this year, at the end of 2023. And that was really fun because what I got to do is I had quite a detailed medical brief with information about things like sustainable development goals and all sorts of exciting developments that are happening in global health in the kind of coming years. And I had to create like really fun scripts to kind of show to the attendees of this conference. And that was just really fun. I got to work with a producer and I got to work with a director. And we had a brief and we came up with a visual treatment and then took that from that and to the like shooting. And it was, balancing the kind of medical copy with the visual aspects, and coming up with fun concepts to try and like unite like the creative element with the kind of more factual side of things. And that I just like love. That really made me come alive. Like actually, that was really like getting to unite the kind of the medical world with the more creative side. So yeah, I would love to be doing more of that kind of stuff in the future. Yeah,
Wow, what a story. That's so exciting. That's very cool. That's very
thanks.
similar story. I was sitting next to someone on a plane and we got talking and they asked me, "Oh, how does hand sanitizer work?" And I said, "Oh, well, basically it disrupts the cell wall of bacteria and, kills them off and dehydrates them so they can't replicate." And he was like, "Oh, well, my dad owns this nutrition company. Would you like to write for us?" And I was like, "Sure." So it was, you never know when you'll meet people, but if you start a
Yeah,
conversation, you could
absolutely.
end up working with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
even
like
if it's not
talking to
immediate.
people. Yeah, talking to people and sharing stories is really amazing. I think if I was going to give like one other tip to people, that would be it would be
Yeah.
to network and talk to people and be your own advertisement
Mm.
and
Sure.
have an elevator pitch of what you do. So, I mean, I was at a wedding yesterday, and I was speaking to somebody who was actually they're like an intensive care doctor, and they were asking me what I do, and I said I do medical writing, and they're like, "What's medical writing?" And there's even people in the medical field that don't know what medical writers do. And so, if you've got like an elevator pitch, like a 2-3 sentence thing, that just um, that tells somebody what it is what you do like clearly, that can be a really amazing thing. And if you've got a story about like why it is you do what you do and why that makes you happy and why you're passionate about that can be a really like great springboard for a great conversation with somebody. And then you just don't know what's going to come from that. um a
Yeah,
chance
it's so
meeting,
true.
a chance conversation, whether it happens online or the real world or WhatsApp or whatever, it can kickstart something for you, and you just don't know. So if you can talk passionately and convincingly about what you do it. So yeah.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people get a bit
100%.
icky when it comes to networking. They're kind of like, "Ugh, I don't like selling myself." It's not necessarily about selling yourself. It's just about like, yeah, just talking about what you do in like a way that's like natural and makes people interested.
Yeah, and I think also the more chances you take and the more you tell your story, the more it will come naturally to you to start talking about yourself and what you
Yeah,
do and why you enjoy it.
yeah,
Because if you only practice your pitch once or twice and you get nothing out of it, then you're more likely to give up. But if you try it 100 times, it means that the next 100 times will be more successful because you will have, kind of opened the floodgates, as it were, to
yeah,
to building your own confidence to give yourself those chances. So that's really exciting. I mean, that's really inspirational. And thank you so much for sharing your stories and your top tips.
oh, it's a pleasure.
And it's been a real pleasure from my end too. And I hope the audience really enjoyed it. So you heard it here. Remy is looking for specialists. So I'll leave his LinkedIn
Yeah, get
down
in
below
touch.
if you want to connect. Yeah. Or just connect with Remy because he's a cool guy. And I'll also leave other links that you want as well. And hopefully this will be, one of those pitches that you get into and can lead to a good relationship with someone like Remy, even if it's just to ask him for advice. So
Yeah.
thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.